It was Monday, the 8th of July, 1974. A crisp winter day in Kempsey, a quiet town along the north coast of New South Wales. The streets bustled with lunchtime shoppers. Prams rolled along footpaths, children clutched their mothers' hands, and the air was filled with the clatter of shoes on pavement, the squeak of shop doors, and the rumble of passing cars. Among the shoppers were two young parents recently arrived from Britain. 30-year-old Jean-Francois Guerin, a bricklayer, and his wife Helen, just 22, were on a working holiday across Australia. They had reunited in Perth earlier that year, determined to see the country the hard way, in their station sedan, with their 3-year-old daughter and their newest addition, a baby boy named Marcel. The trip east had already tested them. To reach Kempsey from Perth, they had driven across the Nullarbor plain, a vast expanse of emptiness that stretched for hundreds of kilometers. In 1974, much of the air highway that cut across South Australia was still gravel and dirt, the road notorious for corrugations, endless dust, and long, punishing stretches between roadhouses. Cars had no air conditioning. Fuel stops were scarce. For a couple from Britain, new to Australia's extremes, traveling those distances with a toddler and a baby was both daring and dangerous. But somehow, they made it. After days of hard driving, they rolled into Kempsey, a small riverside town, a world away from the brutal emptiness of the Nullarbor. Here the family could shop, stock up on essentials, and enjoy the relative safety of civilization. At least, that's what they thought. They parked their car on Clyde Street, Kempsey's main shopping strip, and set off on foot. Marcel was bundled in his pram, his sister trotting alongside. Shop by shop, the family went about their errands. At each stop, the pram was left outside on the footpath, while the parents stepped indoors for a few moments. It was a habit that might shock modern ears, but in the 1970s it was not unusual. In fact, it was common across many countries. Parents believed their babies were safe outside, left to sleep in the open air while errands were done. But at some point that afternoon, something happened that would defy explanation. When the Guerins returned to their car around 1 p.m., the pram was empty. Baby Marcel was gone. There had been no scream, no struggle, no commotion. No one reported seeing a stranger snatch a child, no hurried footsteps, no pram wheeled quickly away. He had simply vanished in the time it took to step into a shop. Panic erupted. Police were called immediately. Within hours, Kempsey became the center of one of the largest searches the town had ever seen. More than 100 officers and volunteers fanned out across the district. Roadblocks were set up on surrounding highways. Shops, arcades, and alleyways were searched inch by inch. The riverbanks were checked. Helicopters scanned the countryside. But there was nothing. No trace of Marcel, no clothing, no pram, no witnesses with a clear sighting. As the hours stretched into days, detectives widened their focus. They retraced the Guerin's route across Australia, back to Perth, through the Nullarbor and into South Australia. They wanted to know if something had happened earlier. Perhaps an accident, perhaps an abandonment, perhaps a story rewritten in Kempsey. But again, nothing was found. The trail was empty. Theories spread quickly. Some believed Marcel was abducted, snatched in an opportunistic crime by a stranger who saw a chance when no one was looking. But how could that happen on a busy shopping street at lunchtime without anyone noticing? Others speculated about misadventure, that perhaps a well-meaning passerby had moved the pram only for events to take a darker turn. Still others whispered about whether Marcel's disappearance had really occurred in Kempsey at all. Later records hinted that his last sighting may have been in Perth's Kings Park, a claim never substantiated but enough to muddy the waters and sow lasting doubt. What is clear is that the case baffled investigators from the start. The timeline was imprecise. The parents could not say exactly when they had last checked the pram, only that Marcel was missing when they returned near 1 p.m. That meant the window of disappearance could have stretched not minutes, but half an hour or more. On a busy street in a small town, That was enough time for someone to approach, act, and vanish into anonymity. To understand how easily it might have happened, picture the scene. A pram parked on the footpath outside a store. The parents duck inside, their toddler with them. For a few minutes, no one who knows the child has eyes on him. A passerby stops, looks around, and bends over the pram. To an onlooker, it looks unremarkable. A parent adjusting a blanket, perhaps picking up a child. The baby is lifted, wrapped close, carried away. A car door opens nearby. Within seconds, both stranger and child are gone. On a bustling street, few people would think twice about the moment. The question is, who? The police had no suspects, no solid leads. Without cameras, without mobile phones, and without forensic evidence, the case grew cold almost as soon as it began. By the end of that week, the search had dwindled. By the end of the year, the trail was already a ghost. And so, the disappearance of baby Marcel, or Marcel as contemporary newspapers spelled it, has lingered for nearly 50 years as one of Australia's most haunting mysteries. A child vanished in broad daylight on a busy street with a town watching but no one seeing. Today, the questions remain. Was it truly an opportunistic abduction? Was there a vehicle waiting nearby? An offender who seized a chance in seconds? Or did something else happen on the Guerin's long, perilous drive across the Nullarbor, far from the eyes of Kempsey's townsfolk, with the shopping trip later used to mask a darker truth? The police never solved it. No evidence ever surfaced. And Marcel Guerin, just 7 months old and was never seen again. Half a century on, the case endures not because of what we know, but because of what we don't. A baby gone without a trace, a family left with silence, and a town that still remembers the day a pram stood empty on Clyde Street.